It is. It is the extra yard here on the Five Reasons Sports Network. Alex Donno alongside Phil in the Troy chair today, and looking handsome, I might say. Louis D. Sung from Pulse of Fins Nation and Fins Nation and Pulse of Nation Fins. Like, how many different shows are you doing on the network these days, Louis? I'm sorry, I'm making you work extra today.
No, I got Fins Nation Monday through Friday on. It premieres every morning at 5 a.m. Not this week because of other circumstances going on in my life, but we will be back next week full time. And of course, Pulse of Fins Nation every Tuesday at either 7 or 7:30 or 8, depends on when I can get everybody together. But it does show up.
And I got to say, heading into the month of April, of course, NFL draft month. We had the owners meetings recently. The NFL never sleeps. Like, there's not really an offseason these days for the NFL, but I've been in draft mode, despite the fact that the Dolphins don't have a huge array of picks this year, right? I mean, no first round pick, and I don't expect the Dolphins to trade up into the first round. I don't see that in the cards. So we're looking at second round pick being the earliest the Dolphins have got. But still, Louis, this is a tremendously important draft that the Dolphins are heading into, because as stacked as this team is in certain spots, there are needs to fill. And I think the most glaring need is right tackle, right? Because I look at the idea right now heading into the 2023 season of Austin Jackson being penciled in as the starting right tackle for this football team, especially considering you've got a left-handed quarterback and that's his blind side. And Austin Jackson to this point has been a draft bust. This is a former first-round pick from 2020. He's been a bust so far, and I don't have any faith in this guy staying healthy to get through an entire season. And even when he's healthy, he's not very good. So, I mean, we can't come out of this draft without a starting caliber right tackle, right? I mean, it can't be something Chris Greer can even consider to be an option.
Well, honestly, though, Donno, I feel like at this point we have to talk about something which I've been actually harping on my show as of late, and nobody agrees with me, but I'm going to go ahead and try it anyway. Let's see what your viewers think about this. I personally feel like at this point, if anybody who would be in the range at 51, someone like a Matthew Bergeron or somebody like a Tyler Steen, both of those guys are considered project players. Yeah. And that's exactly what Austin Jackson was considered when he came out. He was a project player with all the athletic ability in the world, but his technique was absolute garbage. He needed to be taught that. Now, the reason that I say this and I mention this is because of certain things that Mike McDaniel has said recently, right? I don't know if you were aware of the press conference where he talked about Austin Jackson and Liam Eichenberg. He basically said straight up, listen, these kids have not had the chance to play in the same offense for 2 years in their entire careers so far. And I can understand where he's coming from. And something that I have mentioned over the past several years, over the past 5 years, the Miami Dolphins have had 7 different offensive line coaches, if you count mid-season firings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I don't think there is a single team in the whole NFL that has had more turnover at that coaching position than the Miami Dolphins. So you keep all of these factors into play here. And this is the one thing that I say that and it was actually brought up on OnlyFins, which anybody who's not on there, only $3 a month for 3 yards per carry.
Fantastic.
Yes. But somebody had brought it up and they were showing the 14 offensive snaps that Austin Jackson played in the season opener against the New England Patriots. And he was saying some very complimentary things, I thought. And I was like, nah, there's no way this is true. There's no way this can be. Austin Jackson is Austin Jackson. It's garbage. It's garbage. It's garbage just because it's Austin Jackson. But because I try to be objective with everything that I do, I went ahead and I said, okay, let's take a look at this. So I went back. I looked at all of Austin Jackson's plays, and I came away looking like, huh.
Okay. So you're pleasantly surprised.
What was that? Because he looked good. He looked really good. But then he comes back with the Houston Texans after his injury, and he looks awful. Absolutely god awful. Because I watched both film. I'm like, these two are not the same player. They can't be the same player. Because one looks really good and one does not. Which makes me think, and this is where I think Austin Jackson's fatal flaw is that Austin Jackson does not have good discipline with his technique. He is somebody that you need to invest time. You need to invest coaching. You need to invest, basically, you need to be putting him one-on-one with the coach and say, let's go. We're going to drill you until you get it right. And so eventually it does. He gets it right, but then you have to keep drilling him on it. You can't let him go because Austin Jackson was out like what? 10, 11, 12 weeks. I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head. And in all that time, all that training camp, all that OTA, all that preseason work, it all went down the tubes because it seemed like he had forgotten how to play football all over.
Right.
Again.
Well,
So,
and Lewis, to pick up on something you were talking about with coaching, this is one of those things where I'm not a big analytics guy. I'm more of an eye test guy. Okay. And I'm also, I follow people's careers and reputations. I hope that the 3 yards per carry guys who really defend Butch Barry, the new offensive line coach, I hope they are right, okay? Because I covered Butch Barry had a cup of tea at the University of Miami. It was only, I think, one season he was here. It is I wasn't really impressed or unimpressed. Like it was, 1 year. His offensive line wasn't great, but a lot of that was probably talent related. But then, if you talk to Broncos fans about Barry, they seem to think the guy was an absolute train wreck. And then I see, these stats that Alfredo will post about Barry's lines and some of the advanced metrics. And he says, no, this guy's good. The fans just don't know what they're looking at. I hope he's right because, again, and I think overall, I'm bullish on the Dolphins coaching, right? I love McDaniel. I think the Vic Fangio hiring was, inspired and, his reputation speaks for itself. But when it comes to development, I think the jury is out at best on Butch Barry. The Dolphins turn the page on Applebaum pretty quick. They bring Barry in. I hope he's the type of guy that can help players like Austin Jackson and Liam Eichenberg unlock their potential because I'm not convinced on that till proven otherwise.
well, I'm not necessarily convinced either, but the thing is that Mike McDaniel seems convinced, which is the thing, because he doesn't seem very intent on spending a lot on offensive line. He does not seem willing to invest a lot into that particular position. But again, I have to look at it from this perspective. If we love Mike McDaniel and we love this coaching staff and we think they're all geniuses at their job, what does it say that they're not banging down Chris Greer's door saying, get me a new player because this one already sucks? Yeah. Because if that's the case, that means that they feel like there must be something there. And at least in Austin Jackson's case, again, those 14 snaps, I don't want to harp on 14 snaps as opposed to the whole body of work we've seen from Austin Jackson, but something looked good. You have to basically watch it for yourself and see it to be like, okay, yes, I kind of see what you're talking about. But so if we can at least we can acknowledge the but at least say that, okay, for those few snaps consecutively, it wasn't like, oh, there was some good snaps, but then he had 3 bad ones and then he had some good ones again. No, all 14 snaps looked really good. It looked like he knew what he was doing. He looked like he was fast. He looked like he was on point. And then he forgot all his basics after he came back from injury. But that does not tell me that that's an athletic issue. That is a mental issue. It's got to be able to make sure that he knows what he's doing. He's keeping an eye on his discipline. That stuff is coachable. It's coachable. Now, Butch Barry, you covered him. We've heard the reputation. He's no holds barred. He's going to get in your face. He's going to be rude. He's going to be obnoxious. He's not a player's coach. That's why a lot of players didn't like him, is because for all intents and purposes, he was a jerk. But if you're a jerk and you get results, I don't care what kind of a dude you are during the coaching staff. Maybe for all we know, he's the nicest guy in the world when he goes to sit down for dinner. So we'll see. I personally do not think Austin Jackson is going to become a star or anything, but I feel like that I have to give Mike McDaniel the benefit of the doubt if he really feels like that there's something worth investing in, because otherwise we would already be talking about like bringing in a free agent right tackle. And who knows, there's still the possibility that might happen anyway. There's the DJ Fluker stuff that's floating around. There's still the whole idea of bringing back Eric Fisher. We'll see what happens with that. I don't know what the plan is, but if it is Austin Jackson and Liam Eichenberg again, I have to say, okay, Mike McDaniel seems to know what he's doing when it comes to this stuff. He's got a whole bunch of offensive line coaches on his whole entire staff. Frank Smith, obviously Butch Barry. There are other guys that come from the offensive line.
Is Lem still on the staff? Because
he is the assistant. He is the assistant.
Okay,
offensive line coach.
I was curious because I remember he was under Flo. He was the offensive line coach for a year, which he was not ready for.
Unfortunately, so yes.
I know they kept him on the staff last year. I wasn't sure if he was still on the staff this year. But unlike right tackle, which is a crapshoot, you can always count on the folks at Prize Picks. They are dependable. I have so much fun each and every day because there's always something going on. You got NBA games on, NHL games. We just got through college basketball season. We got baseball going on. I'm not a big baseball guy, but I know Troy Stradford is all over the baseball selections on Prize Picks. Prize Picks, it enhances your sporting event experience, okay? Because you're getting action, fully legal in the state of Florida, by the way, which means it's also easy to put your money in and take your money out, fully legal in Florida. This combines my love for parlays and daily fantasy. At Prize Picks, you simply select 2, 3, 4, 5 players, predict if they're going to go over or under their stat projections. And if you get all your predictions correct, you're winning real money. You're winning 3 times, 10 times, 20 times your money back sometimes on these selections. And the other thing I love about Prize Picks is you can go cross sport with this. Like on the same selection, you can have a couple of NBA players, an MLB player, an NHL player. Just you can mix and match these selections so you can have multiple different games on. You're following what your players are doing. It's super easy to sign up, as mentioned, fully legal in the state of Florida. So when you go to Prize Picks or the Prize Picks mobile app, which I use that, it's very easy, and you make your first deposit, use our code 5. That's FIVE. Use our code 5, and they're going to match your first deposit up to $100. So really important, because we hear stories about people signing up and just like daydreaming and not using our code. So if you don't use our code, you're missing out on a deposit match. Why would you intentionally miss out on that? So make sure you type in our code FIVE. They're going to match your first deposit up to $100. So you deposit $100, they give you $100 free on top of that. And I'm telling you, you're going to have so much fun. I've got at least one selection every single night. You know, I like to try to include my Miami Heat when I can, of course, and my Florida Panthers. So check it out, prizepicks.com or the Prize Picks mobile app. It truly is daily fantasy made easy.
What are you going to do for your Flex Friday, Donno?
How does that? I'm so stupid. I don't know how does Flex Friday even work? Because I just make the selections. I don't understand like the days of the week. Like what do I do on a Flex Friday? You should explain that to the folks out there.
So Flex Friday, basically what you do is you can pick, because remember, you can pick up to 6 different guys now, and they can give, if you put in, let's say you put in a $20 bet, you can win 500 if you get all of them right.
I think Troy's done that before. By the way.
So I did it once with basketball, and I was like, I woke up that morning, I'm like, I won $500. But on basketball, of all things, because I'm a football guy, how did I win on basketball? But basically what happens is you put in your $20, and if you lose, they're going to give you the $20 back in promo funds.
Oh, okay. I like that.
So basically you can't lose. The absolute worst thing that you can do is actually get 3 out of 5 right in that case.
Wow.
Because if you see somebody lose, I'm like, okay, I actually want to lose now, because at least I get my $20 back.
Oh, that is fantastic. So I'm definitely going to take advantage of that tonight. Prize Picks truly is daily fantasy made easy. So, Lewis, I'd love your opinion on where the Dolphins stand on paper, contending for an AFC championship, right? Are they closing the gap? How much with Buffalo? Because I think they were already closing the gap last year. I mean,
the gap is closed. Donald, the gap is closed. The gap is closed. If Tua's healthy, the gap is closed. There is no question.
And that's a fair statement, because both the regular season games were so competitive. Dolphins won one of those. Dolphins were competitive in the playoffs despite Skylar Thompson starting at quarterback. So I agree with you. The gap is closed. What about the gap, with teams like Kansas City? And then what about, do you think the Jets, assuming Aaron Rodgers and everything is a full go, how have the Jets closed that gap on Buffalo as well? How do you see the landscape of the AFC? Where do the Dolphins fit in with that?
Well, the gap with New York obviously is going to be a lot smaller with Buffalo now, because you add Aaron Rodgers, which, by the way, it's still not done. Let's not act like he's already typed in on the roster, on New York Jets official roster. So he's still like hovering over them like a specter, being like, am I going to come? Am I not going to come? You don't know yet, do you? So Jets fans are like freaking out right now, I'm sure, being like, can you just freaking make the trade already so we can take it easy and start penciling in our Aaron Rodgers jerseys? But so if the Jets get Aaron Rodgers, which I still think they will, then it's gonna be a bloodbath in the AFC East, all except for New England, which are gonna do absolutely nothing.
And you know what? I'm gonna enjoy every second of that, because not only do I hate them, but I don't want Bill Belichick to catch Shula on the all-time wins list. And how I don't even remember. Do you remember? I can Google it. How far he is off the top of your head, Bill Belichick from Shula?
I can't remember it off the top of my head. It would have to be Googled. But I will say this, and this may be controversial, I don't know. But I feel like Bill Belichick does not even deserve to be in the same sentence as Don Shula. I don't care how many rings he's won with Tom Brady. I don't care how many championships that he can claim that he coached them to. He's not the best coach ever to coach. He is not even close. In fact, if anything, not having Tom Brady has exposed the fact that he doesn't know how to do anything without Tom Brady. He's awful. And now other players, old players, have been coming out for years now saying this was the most miserable experience I've ever had with my entire life. So that is not greatest coach of all time material. So Bill Belichick can go kick rocks as far as I'm concerned.
Well said. So outside of right tackle, what do you feel are the other biggest needs that the Dolphins, with their, plethora of 4 draft picks? I mean, it's possible they could make some maneuvers, trades down, and acquire more picks. We'll see what happens. But what other positions do you think the Dolphins most strongly need to address?
I feel like tight end is something they need to look at. I know the Dolphins like Durham Smythe a lot, and I think Durham Smythe kind of gives me Deion Sims vibes, which isn't a bad thing. Deion Sims was okay, but he's not somebody that I would absolutely just be over the moon about. But the fact that I don't know if you saw the news that came out about how the Dolphins apparently tried to trade for Darren Waller last year.
Yeah,
because even after Tyreek had already.
Who was it? Was it? It was Rosenhaus who spilled the beans on that, right? That he talked about. Yeah, I think he talked about that on a podcast or on a show that because I guess Waller must be his client. He talked about that.
So the fact that the Dolphins were willing to go get Darren Waller, that tells me that they weren't sold on Mike Gesicki. I don't think they knew that Mike Gesicki was not a fit. Maybe Darren Waller gave more than what Mike Gesicki did, because of course, as a weapon, even Darren Waller is better than him.
Oh yeah.
But if that's the case, then you have to say that, okay, well, they're still looking for a tight end. You can't tell me that they're okay with Durham Smythe. And then I can't remember who it was. It's Eric something. I can't remember the guy's last name. That's how it's like, oh, okay. They signed a tight end. Like, what was the guy's name? I'm looking it up right now as we speak.
On. Yeah, let me
Eric
see.
Saubert.
Yes. I wasn't sure if it was Saubert or Saubert. I don't know how French he is.
It's Saubert.
Saubert. Okay.
So Eric Saubert, which, okay, yeah, fine. Oh, and Tanner Connor's still around.
Yeah.
Big hairy deal. I'm at least at this point, I'm thinking that the Dolphins' best bet would be to go like something along the lines of Sam Laporta. I'm trying to be realistic in who would be available, because everybody wants this kid Darnell Washington from Georgia, right? But that's not going to happen. He's 6'7". He runs like a wide receiver. He's an insane physical talent. There's no way.
I'm obviously a Miami homer, but I wouldn't mind taking a hard look at Will Mallory. I think he's been crushing the offseason stuff. I'm a fan of his.
Well, if the Dolphins decide to go for something like offensive tackle at 51, or maybe even running back, if they think they can get their hands on someone like Jahmyr Gibbs or something along those lines, or Charbonnet, that's somebody else that people have been harping on a lot. I mean, if you really want to go running back, I feel like that's not going to happen either, because they seem very set in Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson and Savon Ahmed. Again, at least in Mostert and Wilson's case, they both almost ran for 1,000 yards. And if they had run the ball more, they absolutely could have hit that number. So I don't see the need to upgrade really at running back right now. So I think they're good. So that just leaves tight end, which again, Sam Laporta, he's from Iowa. I know my boy Chad really knows him well, likes him a lot because he's an Iowa guy. He'd be a good fit, I think. So if that's the case, then at 51, you go get Sam Laporta, and then with the third round pick, you go find whatever's left. That it's all project at that point. So you have to have faith in your coaching staff to get the job done. But if you're talking about something that can do an immediate impact, something for sure is going to be getting you like good production, I'm going tight end, because with the offensive tackle prospects that are out right now, they're all projects, and Miami already has projects they need to work on. One that already knows the offense, I might add.
I love it. Well, huge thanks to Louis Sung for stopping by. I got some relatives who just got into town for Easter, so I'm gonna go help entertain them, and also make sure my son doesn't drive them too crazy, because he is a handful, my 5-year-old. So I want to remind you guys, we are also brought to you by Better Edge. Better Edge, to me, it's the ultimate life hack, right? Because this is you're getting betting action, despite the fact that there's no, terrible sports book behind this thing, which means you're not paying any sort of hidden fees. There's no VIG at Better Edge, and it's fully legal in Florida because it's a social platform. You're betting against actual other people. You're not betting against the house. So Better Edge, check it out. BetterEdge.com. You can also find the lines that you want. You can really make your own lines at Better Edge. So check it out. BetterEdge.com/5 5 reasons, and they're going to give you a $20 gift just for signing up at our special URL. Trust me, you're going to enjoy this. So huge thanks to Lewis. Huge thanks to everybody who tuned in. Lewis, any parting comments before we let you run, sir?
The Miami Dolphins are Super Bowl contenders if Tua stays healthy.
That's a big if, but I agree. We'll talk to you guys again Monday. I'll be back. I think Troy Stratford's going to be back in the big chair, but Lewis is awesome. And make sure you check Lewis out. When's the next time you've got a Pulse of Fins Nation or a Fins Nation coming up? I want to make sure everybody watches that.
Fins Nation will be up at 5 a.m. on Monday through Friday. And then on Tuesday, we are going to have another Pulse of Fins Nation, which is the live show. So make sure you're tuned in for that.
Fantastic. We'll talk to you guys again next time on another episode of The Extra Yard. Make sure you can get the audio version as well on the 3 Yards Per Carry podcast feed. So check us out there right here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. See ya.